the YouTube channel, Fly with Alex Mora. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for me, please. On today's flight, I will be going from Alamogordo to Clovis. We'll climb it up to either 9.5 or 11.5. Anyways, should be a good flight. Today, I'm not flying with my family or any friends, just me, which is kind of nice. Sometimes it's nice just to fly by yourself. So anyways, we'll get going. We already did our run up. We're good to go. We're going to go ahead and depart out of here. Alamogordo traffic, 183 whiskey, departing runway 22 will be initial left turn out to the south, and then we'll be climbing it up. Alamogordo.
Traffic glider, Delta Lima entering right-hand pattern now in runway 22.
Alamogordo traffic, 139 whiskey is 5,000 in the climb to 9,500. 1 mile to the south of the airfield will be continue our climb. There's gliders operations here, so always super important. Be on the lookout, always looking outside. Fly the airplane, look outside. Fly the airplane, look outside. Alamogordo traffic, 139 whiskey is 6,000 in the climb. We are 1 mile south of the air threshold for 22. We'll be continuing northbound now. 6,000 in the climb. Alamogordo.
Alamogordo traffic glider, turning base final runway 22. Alamogordo.
So I see that glider. He's turning final for 22. Pretty neat. One of these days I'll get back to flying gliders. I think that was one of the coolest things I've ever done before.
10C, that will keep us clear of all the weather in front of us.
There's a glider. He's 1,300 feet off my right hand side. It's so cool. It's basically just riding those thermals up the mountains here to my right. Absolutely stunning. Aviation is just amazing. Just the fact that we can go ahead and just take a machine, man-made machine, and just fly it. I'm gonna level off here so I don't freak him out. But that way we can maintain that 1,000 feet separation from the glider. Climbing like a rocket when it's just me by myself. Moonies, man, they certainly know how to make these airplanes. Like, I get it, all airplanes are cool. I truly believe that. But whoever designed this Mooney landing gear with the Johnson bar, where it's all manual, it's just absolutely incredible. I'm visual with all the weather. There's a few rain showers out to my right.
We'll go, sir. Thank you.
And off in the distance, directly on the nose. We'll be basically going in between those two here.
4236. Hotel cab, aircraft on the right, D-base to the call sign.
So basically, we are picking up that next ride. This is 7 minutes old. All that stuff is to my right. Yeah, we're staying north of it. We were going to basically go south, but due to the weather, we just stayed north on the north route. And then once we are clear of these mountains, the weather's just going to be absolutely beautiful for the next hour, hour and a half.
50 miles. Looks like south route is better, heading about to maybe 140 for about 100 miles or so.
Anyways, guys, I've been flying a lot lately. I'll be heading out the door for deployment for about 5 months, so kind of bittersweet. So I've been flying a lot. My family, they're actually out of town. Yesterday I flew from to Midland, basically, in Texas. We had a really cool fly-in.
Direct Echo Lima Delta Delta.
And it was super awesome because I got to meet Astronaut Don Thomas.
3587 on board.
Super cool guy. and he was telling us basically never give up on your dreams. So for those watching, if you're having issues with flight training or whatever it could be, medical issues, or you're trying to apply for a job, or try to become an officer, fly for the Air Force, or don't ever give up. And basically, this guy was saying, the astronaut was saying that he didn't apply once, not twice, 3, but 4 times. So 4 times until the NASA was finally like, okay, well, this guy's committed. We'll go ahead and say yes to this guy. Super awesome story as he's telling it. And then later in the story, one of the kids in the crowd, they got to ask the question, hey,
request 20 left for weather.
Like, tell us about like your heroes and that kind of thing. So he said, obviously, hey, Neil Armstrong was my hero. He's an Ohio native, and so is Neil Armstrong. So when Neil Armstrong was walking on the moon, when astronaut Don Thomas was 14 years old, that's basically, he was like, man, that's what I want to do. I want to become an astronaut just like my hero, Neil Armstrong. Fast forward to, making it through the astronaut program and finally getting assigned to one of the Space Shuttle STS missions. He's like, I would love if Neil Armstrong would come to watch my launch. And so Neil Armstrong said, absolutely, I'll be there. And so Neil Armstrong went down to the Cape, and he was there for Don Thomas's first flight into space. And anyway, so he's telling us the story, and then Don Thomas is like, and you know what? People always ask me, hey, what was the coolest thing about working for NASA? And obviously he says, people think that he's going to answer, it wasn't about going to space. The coolest thing that I got to do at NASA was spending 1 hour with Neil Armstrong. What a phenomenal story that is. But anyways, don't ever give up on your dreams for those watching.
Center American 1514, must be break time over in 2522.
This guy says break time. That's hilarious.
Contact again, 125.22, they'll be there.
He said must be break time on 25. Dude, that was funny. I love it. I love pilot humor. Alright guys, I must say, huge fan of this setup now. Instead of utilizing this big old iPad, man, this is amazing. Right in front of my eyes, so even if I were to be flying IFR, pull up an approach plate, super easy, right in front of me, I can read the whole thing, I have a good scan, I can look out the window, like, this is the setup that I've been looking for. It's just, I don't know why I never did it before, but I'll still fly with this because this is my backup. And then as far as this mount, I got this mount last night from Walmart, $6. And so far, man, it's holding up real good. It's got a flexible arm. You can move it whichever direction you want. You can rotate the phone 360 degrees, so you can put it in landscape mode or keep it in portrait mode like it is now. Big fan. Let's see, we're doing 156 knots across the ground. Not too bad, not too bad. I'll take that any day. Probably truing out around 152 at this altitude. 152 knots true, which is primo. Alright, I've had a lot of people ask me about ownership and how it's going. So I've owned the airplane for a year, 1 month already. I just did the annual back in July. I did an owner-assisted annual. Highly encouraged. Find an AMPIA who's willing to do an owner assist. It's amazing the amount of work that goes into it, but it also gives you a lot of knowledge that you would have never had you not ever done it. So I mean, I learned to do my bearings, packing those bearings, changing out the brake pads. I was already doing my own oil changes, but just doing that kind of stuff. I retimed one of the magnetos that was off, spark plugs, cleaned those out, put them back in, did a compression check. I mean, I did it all. Oh, and let's see what else. I did a borescope inspection of the cylinder walls, pistons, all that stuff. Again, learned so much. So anyways, let's talk about airplane ownership. So like everybody says, find what your mission is, right? So my mission is to carry my wife, 2 small children. Realize that your mission will change. My mission will probably change in 2-3 years, and then again in 5 years, and then in 10, and then in 20, right? So it's constantly changing. So ask yourself, what is your mission when you're ready to go ahead and buy an airplane? Is it to go on cross countries? Is it, do you want to just buy a tail dragger and have fun? Go and do some backcountry flying. Ask yourself what that mission is. Our mission, 3-hour cross countries. So we can go to easily on a 500 nautical mile cross country, non-stop, right? 3-hour flight, that's a long flight for kids. So obviously my mission is going to change once they get older. They'll probably be able to do longer flights, so we'll need an airplane that has longer legs. But I mean, this airplane has 50 gallons. I can easily do 500 nautical miles, plus have your IFR and fuel reserves, pending headwind, tailwind, that kind of thing, but not a big deal. One time we were coming back from Houston with a gnarly headwind. So yeah, you stop for gas, so that's fine. You take a break, stretch, eat, and get back in the air. Super easy. Now, as far as cost, right? So you will have fixed cost, you'll have operating cost, variable cost. Just to start off, realize buying an airplane is more like buying a house. It has basically escrow, all of that applies. It's nothing like buying a car. Absolutely nothing. You got to do an inspection. I mean, it's not required, but it's highly encouraged. You would do a pre-buy inspection with a AMP that is not affiliated with the airplane. So take a look and see who did the annual, who's done it in the past few years. Try to see if you can find your own AMP that's willing and able to do the pre-buy inspection. They're not too expensive, and it's worth it. I was looking at a M20J, a J model, in Fort Myers, Florida. I drove 11 hours on a weekend. I test flew the airplane. The airplane had not flown for 5 years, just because the gentleman was old and he had lost his medical. So the airplane was just sitting on the ground for 5 years, and then he finally decided to sell it. So we flew it. I flew it with a CFI. It was an expert in mooney, specializes in mooney types, and yeah, it was no good. I want to say, out of Fort Myers, we flew to the west around, I don't know, must have been like 15 nautical miles, and then the engine started stumbling, and we're like, you know what, let's do a 180. I was flying, my initial reaction was exactly that. I did a 180, and I'm like, all right, start looking for places to land, hit the nearest page, where's the nearest place to land, and we ended up being able to make it back. And I told the owner, look, thank you for your time, but unfortunately I'm gonna have to say no. And I just said no. That's what a pre-buy inspection is. Check out the airplane, fly it also. And then this came up, and then I jumped on it super quick. Did a pre-buy inspection, I liked what I saw, then I flew it, liked what I was seeing, and then we carried on with the offer and then the purchase. So once you find the airplane that you want for sale, you need to jump on it quick. Basically, they sell super quick. So jump on that quick. The market is crazy, and the prices just keep going up. So first step is to go under contract. By no means am I a lawyer, so forgive me for the terms, but make a contract, but let it be known that, hey, it is pending a pre-purchase inspection, basically saying that if I want to back out, I will back out pending pre-buy inspection. So find a mechanic that's willing and able to do that pre-buy inspection. Normally the way it works is the seller will pay for any squawks during the pre-buy inspection that are airworthiness items. And then the buyer buys for anything that's non-airworthiness. So you can expect to do that. That's a fairly common process. So once you get the pre-buy inspection, AMP says, hey, I think it's a good airplane, now it's time to make a decision. And then while you're doing that, right, the seller has to be able to get something out of it in case you do back out. And so you put money into an escrow account. So there's a lot of people in many companies in Oklahoma City who do this. They're in Oklahoma City because they're right next to the FAA, the registration branch. And so as soon as you finalize all the paperwork, they walk into the FAA office, and then basically they do everything for you. So I highly encourage to do one of those escrow companies. So anyways, you put a deposit in that escrow. I personally utilize Aerospace Reports. I think they were phenomenal. They also do a title search, make sure that there's no liens in the airplane, and it protects you. It really does. So make sure you do one of those as well. So now, who pays for the escrow fee? The fee is usually around $500, and the way I did it was a 50-50. I don't know how everybody else does it, but it was 50-50. I said, you know what, I think that sounds fair. So we each paid $250 for the escrow, and that included title search, everything. My pre-buy inspection was $600. That's going to depend on your A&P. Fast forwarding now to when you finalize the paperwork. To register an airplane is super easy. It's a $5 fee. You get $5 to the FAA. You get a temporary registration, which you got to keep with you on the airplane until you finally get the actual one in the mail. Now, obviously, most of the time, you're not going to find an airplane that's in your local airport. I mean, if you do, nice. More often than not, that's not the case. In my case, the airplane was far away. You also need to take a look at the insurance. See what insurance will be quoted for you. Get a quote from an insurance company. Super important. You probably want to start doing that even before, well before you buy an airplane. You don't want to be in the process of actually committing to a purchase and then come to find out, hey, my insurance is going to be through the roof because I don't meet the minimum requirements. So start working on that as well. So as you're looking for airplanes online, go ahead and start getting quotes from different brokers. Super important. In my case, it's just fortunate that I fly PC-12s during the week. I'm an Air Force pilot, so the company that I went with recognized a lot of the time, since it was still single-engine, retractable airplane, and so I was able to get a good rate. The requirement for me for my checkout to satisfy insurance was basically fly and do a checkout with a CFI that specializes in moonies, and this type of mooney. So that's what I did. I contacted a mooney CFI. I was like, hey, I'm looking to buy this airplane. Are you willing to do a checkout for me? And yeah, it was fairly quick. I don't think it even took an hour. It was super fast. We did a whole bunch of touch and goes. We went up, we did stalls, we did steep turns, just trying to see how the airplane handled, trying to get used to the Johnson bar, the flaps, everything. Yeah, it was no issue. Less than an hour, I was signed off. Now, I highly recommend you guys join a Facebook group page. If you're not on Facebook, go on a type club. In this case, for my case, it was the Mooney type club. But Facebook has a lot of tools. They have the Mooney Pilots Facebook page. They have a Vintage Mooney Facebook page. I subscribe to the West Texas Aviators, North Texas Aviators. There's a New Mexico, Fly New Mexico Facebook page. Anyways, the list goes on. And a lot of people post their airplanes on there. So a lot of people are like, hey, I'm going to put my airplane up on here and I'll keep it up here for the next 2 days. And then after 2 days, I'm going to go ahead and post it up on Trader Plane, Controller. So join those groups. Don't be shy. All right, let's talk about what it costs. Well, I figure it costs around $3,000 just for an annual inspection for this type of airplane. That's about average nationwide. $3,000 just for the inspection. That is not counting anything that they find wrong with the airplane. So take note of that. So that's already $3,000 right there that I know I'm gonna have to put if I fly or if I don't fly the airplane. So that's already $3,000 utilized. In addition to that, you have fixed costs, hangar fees. I highly encourage finding a hangar if you can. I realize in some of the big cities it's super complicated. There's a 2 to 3 year wait list. I got lucky out here in New Mexico. I was basically on a 2-month wait list and I got a nice hangar. My hangar in my case is $150 a month. Do the math times 12, whatever that is. That's what I pay a year. Insurance, I already went. I already spoke about that. That's going to vary based on your hours, your licenses, your different experience levels. So that I'm not even going to bring up. Just start researching that and just getting quotes. Then you have fuel costs. Those are what we call operational costs. I plan to fly 100 hours a year with my family. So we already know, hey, let's commit to 100 hours minimum a year.
1,500. RV 88 Victor Charlie, Roswell Brooks, Roswell Cinder 2984.
About a year ago,
2984, Victor Charlie.
The gas was $4.50. Those were the good old days. Yeah, $4.50. So we figured we'd basically buy 800 gallons a year to fly 100 hours. Our airplane is pretty economical. As you can see right now, we're burning 8.6 gallons an hour, doing 150 knots true. I mean, doesn't get better than that. So anyways, so 800 gallons a year at $4.50, that's $3,600 a year. So $3,600 to fly 100 hours a year. All right, incidentals. Then you have incidentals, squawks. Throughout the year, something's gonna break, right? Hopefully nothing breaks, but if it does, you're gonna have incidentals funds ready to go. Tires, your vacuum pump goes out, your fuel pump goes out. You need a cylinder. Hopefully not, but those kinds of things. Recently, actually, when I went to Oshkosh, I found out that cylinders don't cost that much. Actually, it was like, I couldn't believe it. It was like not even $2,000. It was fairly cheap. I was like, what? So anyway, so incidentals, plan for that, and then I include an engine fund in that as well. What we like doing is, you know what, clean. We're gonna put $2,000 into an account every month, and we're gonna pull from that account some of the fuel money that we're gonna utilize to operate the airplane, and then the rest usually stays in there, and then it just grows throughout the year, and I have that at the end of the year for whatever the case may be, and to keep an engine fund going in the event. Once we reach TPO, which if you guys have not heard or subscribed to Mike Bush or read any of his work, he's getting twice the TPO on an engine. So hopefully, knock on wood, we can go over the 2200 TPO on this Lycoming engine, factory engine. So the other thing that we can do is basically, if you put in $100 for gas, it's a good technique. This is technique only. $100 of gas, put away twice as much as that. So I utilize $100 of gas, then I'm going to put away $200, and that keeps on growing and growing. And then whenever you need something goes out, boom, you're ready to execute, and it won't hurt your bank as much. I think in my notes, it comes out to $118 per hour. That's including fuel, fixed costs, hangar fees, insurance, incidentals, annual costs, $118 an hour. That is, to me, super economical. Renting out airplanes is like $150 an hour, and it's not yours. You don't really know the actual condition of it. I don't know. This is a peace of mind. Burning 8.6 gallons an hour at 11,500, 150 knots true. That to me is amazing. So I'll end it there. If you guys have questions, I'll open up the comments below, and we're actually going to go ahead and start getting ready for our approach. So we're going to go ahead and get the weather for Clovis.
Clovis Regional Airport. Automated weather observation. 2232 Zulu. Wind 270 at 04. Visibility 10. Sky condition clear. Temperature 33 Celsius. Dew point 10 Celsius. Altimeter 2986. Remarks. Density altitude 7,300.
Alright guys, I'm starting my descent, switching over to CTAF. See you guys at home plate. Clovis traffic, 139 Whiskey, 22 miles to the southwest of the airfield will be inbound for the full stop, Clovis. Clovis traffic, 139 Whiskey, will be joining at left 45 downwind runway 22, full stop, Clovis. I was going to land 04, there's nobody there. I wanted to kind of do the ILS, but the winds were variable, and then when I tried it again, they switched to 7 knots from 250 heading. So I was like, you know what, let's just join 45 and join it left downwind for 22, full stop. Clovis traffic, 139 Whiskey, left 45 downwind runway 22, full stop, Clovis.